Welcome to the Chaos and Light podcast. I am your host, Angela Levesque, and on today's episode, I'm speaking with Jeff Simpson, and we're talking all about integrated health and well-being. We'll dive into some nutrition and exercise and just see where the conversation takes us. As all my listeners know, the Chaos and Light podcast is part of the Chaos and Light community, which is an online space for spiritual seekers to connect and expand with other like-minded people. So if you haven't checked out chaosandlight.com, please do. There's new events, guided meditations, articles posted almost every week. When we return, I will be back with Jeff Simpson. Do you believe in synchronicity and synergy? That when people share, connect, and collaborate from an authentic space, amazing things can and do happen? Then check out the Chaos and Light community, an online space for spiritual seekers that supports personal growth and gives you a frequent touch point to stay connected to your spiritual core. Join a group, attend a gathering, be inspired by our Muse feed, all in a politics-free, ad-free environment. So dive deep into your spirituality at chaosandlight.com. Connect, inspire, expand. All right, I am here today with Jeff Simpson. He's father, husband, fitness fanatic, nutrition junkie, and soul searcher. He is the author of the book, Health, Mind, Soul, 8 Steps to Finding Your Inner Peace. It is his goal to provide the support, information, and motivation his clients need to achieve and maintain their goals and live their most optimal life. Well, hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. Just grateful to be here. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to have you on because I love talking. I too am a nutrition junkie and seeker, soul searcher. So I'm excited to have you on and talk about integrated health. Let's start a little bit with your background. In your book,
Mhm.
you talk about moving from 2 failed marriages, and now you're living your most optimal life. So let's hear a little bit about where you've been and how you got here.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I think, if I was going to, put things in a bow and talk about where I am now, I have to talk about where I came from and what kind of led me to that transition. But certainly um, coming through 2 marriages, 2 divorces, and knowing that, I had repeated a lot of those same mistakes. I never wanted to be in that position again. I had a lot of heartbreak, a lot of, uh, I guess, soul searching, as we talked about. And I needed to find out how I was going to be able to progress into the person that I wanted to be. I just wasn't sure at the time um, how I was going to do that and what that vehicle was going to be. And luckily for me, my wife now, who was way more spiritually advanced than I was, kind of sent me in an amazing direction just with reading and journaling, meditation. I was always into the health realm, nutrition somewhat, but not as much as she was. So she kind of gave me a lot of the tools to start that journey. And then from there, I was able to just expand on that. Really got into finding out who I was, who I wanted to be. And it was those items, reading and journaling, and just getting that information from others, being able to soak it up and then, listen to the things that they talked about that had failed for them and be able to adapt that to my life and then be able to make those changes to, be a better person. And from there, I just committed myself to being the best person I could. And I really just wanted to help myself. And then I wanted to help people. I knew that there was a lot of people out there just like me who had been through, divorces, been through career changes, been through um, health episodes that weren't so great. And I wanted to be able to take what I learned in my life and be able to pass that on to others. So that kind of led me down that path of wanting to be a nutritionist and a fitness trainer and a wellness coach. And the author just kind of came by surprise. But, sometimes when you're looking for things just kind of come out of nowhere and lead you in a different direction. So it was quite the experience, and um, I had a lot of positive feedback on that. And I'm looking to see where the next chapter goes.
So I always think it's interesting because everybody who kind of starts on this path, whether that's, the journey of personal growth and development, or they would describe it more as an awakening journey, there's
Yeah.
these few like integral books or teachers that come along that kind of bust everything open. And you had said that your wife had introduced you to some. What were some of the teachers and books that were really like on the early part of your journey, really expanding for you?
Yeah, they were big. I wasn't much of a reader, like, be totally honest. I hadn't read in years. And, I talk about that in my book, how I just, it just wasn't something I did. And to be able to get that information from others, people like Brene Brown, she opened up my eyes to vulnerability. I'd been in the military for 10 years. I'd been in relationships where, um, being vulnerable was hard. And to be that person you want to be, it's hard to be that if you're not vulnerable. Just in life, you have to open up. You have to be vulnerable to yourself. You have to be vulnerable to others. That was an eye awakening. People like Rhonda Byrne, just law of attraction. I believe that that's such an integral part just to life itself, that if you put out those things to the world, that these things come back, and having those self-doubts and having those limitations I had put on myself for so many years of, I guess, who I thought I needed to be, for others, but it wasn't really who I wanted to be for myself. It was an amazing book, and just the positivity that I was able to gain from that, and start to receive that back. I was able to see that, wow, there's really something into that. And then that started sending me into that really big spiritual realm. And David Hawkins, his map of consciousness was just eye-opening, just to know that, I had been walking around, I guess I like to say, sort of with my eyes closed, and going to work, being in relationships, being in my career, working out, eating, doing whatever I was doing that everybody else was doing, but not seeing the whole big picture. So uh, I recommend that to anybody that hasn't read that book. It's definitely an eye opener, and you really start to learn what consciousness really means.
Is that
And
Power versus Force?
I've read that as well. His last one is sort of a narrative of the power versus force. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's funny, and I want to talk about books, and because you are a big proponent of reading, and I spend so much time on my computer that I have started getting into audiobooks, just so that
right.
I can go and I can, still take in information, and
Mhm.
then go walk around, and I check out Japan and get out in nature, and I do all of these things, but then I'm still able to listen. But I have two of his books. I have Power versus Force and
Yeah,
Letting Go on audio,
yeah,
and I can't for some reason absorb the information. So as soon as I get back to the States, I'm buying those two books in hard copy so I can actually read. Part of the problem is he sounds a little bit drunk in his
yeah,
narration. And so I have it, and he's talking about these really high level concepts, and I have a
yeah,
hard time being able to walk in the world and then be able to absorb what he's saying. So I'm going to get those books because I can't even tell you in the past 3 months how many people. I mean, I've heard about those books a long time ago,
yeah.
but how many times those have shown up in conversations. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting the message. I need to be able to, sit
Right.
down and maybe be able to take notes and that sort of thing. But I also find now, and I want to get into smartphones and social media and all of that, that I have a hard time reading now because
Yeah,
of the nature of, technology and the bite-sized pieces of information. And
yeah,
I know that for sure it interacts differently with my brain when I'm listening to something like through Audible versus sitting there and reading a book. And it's not just about the information I'm receiving. It actually, I'm using my brain in a different way when I'm reading copy. But
Yeah.
anyway, I absolutely want to read that book. But what when you read, are you listening to audiobooks? Or are you sitting down and reading?
Yeah, I'm a visual person. I just like uh, and I totally agree with what you're saying. There's lots of times I've been out on runs, or I've had long walks, and I'll listen to usually I end up listening to some of the books that I've already read, so then I'm able to gain those concepts, um, or I've heard them before. So it's taking in that information again doesn't seem to be quite as hard, or maybe I catch something I didn't. But yeah, and especially at the Hawkins, there's lots of times when I was reading the book and had some very hard times taking in some of the concepts. So yeah, certainly listening to it, I would have been thrown off a little bit. But I like the visual. I like to underline. I like to highlight, make notes. My books have lots and lots of marks, so I find I tend to retain it a little better that way. And then it gives me that just that little moment of time to myself. I know if I have um, 15, 20, 30 minutes to just kind of sit there and read, then I my only distraction could be reading the book. So vice sometimes when I'm walking around, I get a little distracted looking from side to side, and just making sure I'm safe. So
Yes.
there's a little bit to that. Yes.
So when you suggest to your clients to read, because that's one of the kind of the staples
Yeah.
of the work that you, or the 8 steps, are you
Yeah.
suggesting reading for um, the information? Are you suggesting reading because of the way it changes the brain? What is the thinking behind why you're such a big proponent of getting your clients to read?
No, it's a great question, and I would say definitely all the above on that. So being able to have one time to yourself, right? You sit down, you read, and it just gives you that moment to take in some things for yourself, right? It's just you and the book, getting that information, taking it in. Um, I'm a big component or proponent for nonfiction, but it doesn't matter what it is. You're able to just submerge yourself into whatever it is you're reading. Um, Other times it could be, again, yeah, just that brain activity. We're so caught up into that social media and um, Netflix and TV and anything else that can distract us. And we want it quick and we want it fast and we want it now. And when you're reading, it's just, I find it's a slower process, right? Your mind is taking in this information. And yeah, I find that you can just really get so much that saturation versus just something that's just in and out on TV or on your phone. And I would say, hopefully you learn some stuff, whether that's if you're into the nonfiction and you read that, the amount of and I think it's good for anybody. I think no matter where we're at in life, reading some kind of, I say self-help, but it could be anything. You could be reading about past wars or biographies on people, just learning more information, learning about how you can be a better person. It's something that I thought I wasn't going to be able to do, or I thought it was something that I didn't need back in the day. It was just, oh no, I know I can take care of these things myself. But I was quite surprised and shocked at how much I can learn from. And there's so many experts out there who have so much great information. And I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter where you're at in your life, you can always be better. So keep reading, keep gaining that information, and it's just going to make you a better person, you know?
Yeah. And I find that going back to my issue of having a hard time actually sitting down and reading, and that it's because the
Mhm.
changing nature of the way that information is coming to us in 280
Yeah.
characters or less or whatever. It's actually
Right.
um, but when you read, you're giving yourself an anchor for your attention, and
Yes.
that helps with our concentration. Like I said, there's all these brain changes that come along with that go along with it, and that's important in this time where we are constantly multitasking and multitasking with our mind. Like we've got a chat going on with our our neighbor, and then we've got
Mhm.
maybe Facebook posts, and then we have maybe the document we're working on, and we have all of these different things. And no wonder it's very difficult to sit down and say, okay, I'm now just going to narrow my focus and focus enough on what I'm reading that I'm absorbing it and taking it in and comprehending it, and thinking about its implications and that sort of thing. And I think
Yes.
this is really I'm hoping. I know that there's people studying this, the way that social media and just the media landscape in general is changing our
Mhm.
brains. I know people are studying it, but I just don't think that we're discussing enough the impact that it has on our well-being. And so you talk about
Absolutely.
in one of your on your website, you talk about technology and doing digital detoxes. Do you think that that is absolutely important in this day and age?
Yeah, I think more now than ever. I think, especially because we have a younger generation who, I have a 10, almost 11-year-old daughter who, she grew up with, you know, cell phone, iPads, computers, and wow, to have that from day one and know nothing else, um, to be able to tell someone, oh boy, that's like a 16, 17, 18, to say, hey, take one day away from your phone. Oh, you would think that it was the end of the world. And, you know, I, I think personally that those people that were in my generation who I would like to say we were fortunate enough to not have it growing up. So we know what it's like not to have it. And we lived amazing, fun lives. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we had a lot of time to ourselves and we had to figure out what to do with it. And it wasn't looking on our phones or looking on our computers. And now we also get to see it on the other spectrum, where uh, moms and dads and husbands and wives, and we have careers, and a lot of our businesses nowadays are online, and we get to use this technology, we get to use the social media to our advantage. But I think we have that retrospect of what it was like and what it isn't. So I think, and even anybody in general, if they can just take those, I just like to tell people, even just a day, you know, try even a half a day, a few hours. It's amazing, you know, what it'll do. It's liberating that if you can just put your phone down, separate, go sit outside, go for a walk without your phone, you just realize how free you are. And it just kind of gives you that retrospect when you come back that, okay, life is still going on without me. Life will still be going on if I'm on my phone or not on my phone. And
Do
yeah, I think
you
it's super important.
do you have boundaries, like yourself personally? Do you create some boundaries around your technology use?
I do. I personally, I like to, I try to check myself daily. I mean, we're all running businesses where we need to use our phones, and working jobs where we need to use our phones. But it's those moments um, where I know that I don't need it, that I just set it down and leave it. If I'm going out in the yard to do some work, or if I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go somewhere, I know I don't need my phone. If someone wants me, they can get a hold of me somehow. At nighttime, I like to shut things down a couple hours before bedtime, right? It just frees the mind. It allows you to just prepare for the night, get a great sleep. And then come morning time, I don't look at my phone right away. I have a ritual where I just kind of get up, I do my journaling, I have a meditation. The last thing I want to see is my phone, because I know I'll get wrapped up in what emails are on there, what text came through, what do I have going for the day. And I have X amount of hours to the day that I can worry about that. And to have that half hour to an hour free time in the morning, it's fantastic. It really sets my day off good. And I recommend that to everybody. I believe everybody can, and I know everybody says sometimes that they can't, but I believe they can. There's always time to set it down, get what you need done, shut it off, and leave it alone. And it goes with the kids too. Like they have to put their stuff away. They can't take their computers or phones upstairs. Everything, just leave it downstairs. You go upstairs, you finish your nights, and
Yeah, with my son, he's 13, and yeah, his phone charges in our room at night. Like he's
yeah,
not allowed to have that, and that'll be how it is for him going to high school. And I'm sure he'll push back against that. But it's really important because otherwise, then you start taking texts and at midnight, and then your mind's engaged and you're not sleeping, and there's all of
yep,
these things. Yeah, so I think that that's especially for kids, like you said, that didn't grow up knowing any different. They need to
hmm,
have those built in. They need to have that structure and those boundaries. For myself here, talking about getting up and being on your phone, that's a bad habit I got in Japan because a lot of my clients are still in North America, and so I have a
right,
short window um, between like right when I get up, it's like mid-afternoon for my clients. So I have a short window,
right,
but as soon as I get back to the States, that's my plan again, is like get up, I'm going to maybe, take my dog for a walk, and I don't have a dog yet, but I will. And meditate and take that time in the
yeah.
morning before I start, hitting the ground running. And I think that that is something I wish that there was more messages around that in our, like from our health authorities and experts talking about just how detrimental uh, our smartphones and social media and that whole landscape is, not only to our brain health but just our general well-being.
Yeah, it's tough on. Yeah, I mean, if we just talk about our well-being and having that time to ourselves, that's one aspect, and then social media in general is hard to navigate for anybody at times, right? Just with the things that we see, as we get older, we kind of start to realize, okay, it is what it is, and it's great for many things. At other times, I think we can kind of distinguish, like I know not everybody's living these amazing lives. It's just a snapshot of what we see. I think for the kids, I think it's probably, where it hits home the most because they can't distinguish that. So what they see is what they believe is real. That all these people are doing so amazing, and all these people are this and that, and you have to really repeat over and over again that just what you see isn't necessarily how life is,
It's the
and
highlight reel.
it is totally a highlight reel. And trying to explain that to them can be tough at times, but you have to just keep implementing that and say, hey, this is just the highlight reel of what they have. They're living their lives. They have bad days just like everybody else. So take it with a grain of salt and keep
Yes.
moving.
Well, let's move on to nutrition. I gotta say, my nutrition has really suffered in Japan. One, because everything's so expensive. Two, you can't, not that I want to eat a lot of things that have labels, but I
Hmm.
can't read labels here.
Right.
It's very difficult to find food that's not all genetically modified, um, which then I'm concerned about pesticide use and herbicides and those sorts of things. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, so, and people think that because everyone here is very thin, that they eat very well in Japan, but I have never seen so much consumption of white pastry, white bread, white rice for sure, and fried foods. Like I hardly
Wow.
ever ate fried foods until I moved to Japan. And yeah, so I am like so excited to get back and start eating well again. Um, One of the things when they get on sort of a nutrition program, whether that's keto or
Mhm.
intermittent fasting, like people will be like, that is like, you have to be doing this. If you're not eating keto, like that, everyone thinks that their way of eating is like the way that everyone needs to eat. And then they get
Yeah.
all in your face about it and whether,
Ugh, I know.
but would you say that it's individual, that the right thing for me maybe not be the right thing for you, may not be the right thing for that other person. It's all finding what is good for your body in particular.
That's 100% true. And yeah, I'm still surprised nowadays that people still say that. But I mean, I get they see their neighbor or they see their friends or somebody, doing some diet and they've lost weight. So yes, they it's human nature. You want to try it, or say that it's the best and it's going to work for you, but you just don't know. It's absolutely 100% individual. Um, how your body is going to react to those foods. I mean, we all react to different things, right? If you're um, maybe that person who's on keto, reacts really well to that protein and fats. And then you're also talking about differences, not only in people, but differences in gender. And then that makes a big difference. So what men and women, um, can eat or not eat, I mean, that's completely is different as well. So, I mean, there's so many different factors. And I always just tell somebody, and a lot of times if they come to me with something, I'll let them try it and let them go with it, because again, it's all, if you're going to have success, then they need to be committed to whatever that diet is, whether it's going to work for them or not. Maybe it's not exactly what I feel is the best thing, but my job as a coach is to be there and support and give them the information they need on whatever program, whatever diet they want to do, because we want them to be able to get success, but then again, it's also about long term. So I'm very transparent as to, yes, this may work fantastic in the beginning, but you may need to start to switch and integrate some other things as you progress, because otherwise this diet or this regimen is going to be, and I guess we're all kind of like that once we've kind of found something that we really enjoy, that you're going to kind of be on that for the rest of your life, if it's just eating well, like you hope to eat well for the rest of your life. I mean, it's just, doesn't matter what diet is or not, but you have to let them know, like, hey, if you do this to lose this, there's going to be a point to where maybe you want to try some other things. So you're going to have to be willing to open that up, because it's hard to stick to some of these fad diets, I guess so they like to call it.
How do you help your clients discover what is the appropriate, or the appropriate way for them to eat for their body type and their unique biochemistry?
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of times, I guess it'll depend on if they come to me wanting help, and then if they are talking about a certain diet. So then I'll have to go with this. If it's just, hey, I've seen that you helped so and so, and they got some really great results. Can you help me too? Then I'm gonna kind of bring my philosophy to that, and to me, that's just like a whole foods holistic approach. Just trying to eat those whole natural foods, trying to eat mindfully, trying to eat you know eating your fats, eating the carbs, not being afraid of any of the groups, because I feel that over time that's just going to be sustainable. I mean, we all live lives, we have birthday parties, we have graduations, we have whatever it is where, there's going to be cakes and this and barbecues, and we all know that this stuff comes and goes. So if you're not limiting yourself to certain food groups, then being able to have, sort of a well-balanced diet makes it easier to, get through those highs and lows, and then try to keep a nice medium balance throughout all of it. And I mean, I think that's what it's all about. Finding that balance. If I'm going great through the weekday, Monday through Friday, and I'm eating fantastic, well, the weekend comes and I want to, have a barbecue, I want to go out with some friends for dinner, then so be it, do it. And then when Monday rolls around, come back, don't be afraid to indulge a little bit, it's not going to hurt, and get back on the horse and get back at it the next week.
Yeah, that's my approach too, is eat as real as possible, as whole as
Yeah.
possible. Manage your portion sizes, obviously,
Mhm.
and but that's what I found too, working with clients as soon as you start to limit, there's something that switches in the brain that is like,
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, but I can't have this. And go into like scarcity mode. And then they kind of get into this all or none place, and then they fall off the wagon, and it's kind of like, screw it, everything's ruined. I can't. But when you're like, no, that's not life. Like, you're right.
No.
Life happens, and you don't want to say, oh, I don't want to go out for dinner with my friends on Friday because I won't be able to follow this diet. And then you inevitably, maybe you have too many glasses of wine, and then you eat too much, and then you get into this place of, well, now it's all screwed. So I might as well.
Right.
And look it's just more proof that I can't do this. And
Yeah.
so I just find that whole mindset doesn't work if it's putting you sort of into scarcity mode.
Yeah. And I think that's where I find with some of those diets, it's like and then it's fine. You can, if you have certain beliefs that this is going to be it for you, then, you'll make it work, whether you go out or wherever you're at. But, to limit carbs, or to completely, not eat meat, whatever it is on either side, you just have to be willing to know that, there's going to be those instances where that comes up, and how are you going to react to that? And, it's totally okay. We have to just find what is, again, best for us, and hope that that's sustainability will last through your life.
What do you feel about intermittent fasting?
I love it. The best part about intermittent fasting is, and I do it, I like to do it 1 to 2 times a week just for myself. It's not even really a diet. It's just a regimen that I find will improve any nutrition plan that you're on. Because once, and I've told people this, so there's many great benefits. One just being, it allows your internal organs to just recover. 90% to 100% of the time we have food in our digestive system, and it's constantly being barraged. It never has time to relax. So this intermittent fasting gives our digestive system a chance to relax, a chance to heal. I mean, the fact that you give it a break, I mean, it's thanking you a million times over. And all those nutrients, all that food, all that blood is able to go to other parts of your body and just start to heal. 2, you get autophagy through it. Like, you get all this red blood cell turnover, you get stronger cells, you get better immunity, and there's amazing things. And then one of my favorite things is, and people probably disagree in the beginning, is just having that mental mindfulness of your body, those hunger pangs that come, I like to have people, and I'll do it myself, anywhere between 16 to 18 hours, I find is a nice sweet spot. So if you finish dinner that night, take it through lunch the next day, you really start to discover your own body, your own hungers, those feelings. We all feel that come the next morning or early the next day that we're starving, and we're really, really not. Once you start doing that a few times and you realize, oh, I'm totally fine. I made it through a few highs and lows, a few hunger points where, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to break, but you made it through. It starts to get easier. You start to get just in tune with your body. And that's what I tell people. That's the biggest thing. And then you start to realize, wow. So when I was eating all that other food, maybe I didn't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I was okay without it. It's amazing. Your body is super resilient, and that intermittent fasting is big. Not to mention you burn tons of fat and a lot of other things. I mean, those are some nice perks to go along with it, but I like to make sure that I give them all the scenario as to, this isn't just about, hey, you're not eating. This is about getting in tune with your body to realize, hey, I'm okay without food. My body is not going to fall apart. You'll be just fine.
For myself, I find 16 hours is a little bit too long, but I actually am very comfortable. We eat dinner usually. I always say like the the early bird special. Like we usually done dinner by 5:30, and then I
Hmm.
just don't
Hmm.
eat the rest of the night. And then I get up and do whatever, and then so it's usually about 14 or 15 hours, and that to me is
That's
like
fine. That's great.
it's
Yeah.
not even a problem at all. Like it's just that's I grew up kind of eating at 5:30, and so
Hmm.
it was never I think my body is trained for that. But I find that one of the best things that you can do is just not eat after dinner. Like if people make that choice that okay,
Hmm.
this is the my first step that I'm going to start with is I'm not going to eat after dinner. So no snacking and doing that. And that just is a good kind of gateway into then making some other changes that because people think they have to drastically alter things. And, for sure, there's some outliers out there who have some really terrible habits, but it's like there's a few things that you could switch, like the being mindful of the calories you're taking in through beverages,
Yeah.
those kind of
Absolutely.
things. It's like, don't eat after dinner. Don't, uh, I'm drinking right now Rooibos iced tea. So that has no
Nice.
caffeine. It tastes lovely, no calories. There's little things that you can start with that all of a sudden, you're seeing these calorie deficits, and it's not a huge drastic lifestyle change that you're making. And then as you start to build momentum, then you can start to look at some of the other things. I don't know. That's kind of my approach, but would you agree?
Uh,
Would you
no, I
alter that?
totally, no, I totally agree. I think just those little things, whether it was switching from processed foods to whole foods, I'll tell people, man, like you'll be surprised. I guarantee. Get rid of all that processed food. Start eating whole foods, and you can pretty much eat whatever you want. And you're going to start losing weight. You'll be shocked at the amount of stuff that's in the processed food to what's in the whole food. Not to mention, you just can't eat as much because it's filled with fiber and protein and fats and all these things that aren't like, if I'm eating the processed foods, I mean, we know we eat these things, and then an hour later we're hungry again, right? So we go right back to that routine. And then what you touched on, I think, is fantastic, and um, just having those meals at those certain times, and then just stopping. Eat your dinner, and I've told people, like, listen, if you get hungry and you start snacking, I want you to eat a bigger dinner. Eat eat a bigger dinner, get full, a little bit more protein, a little bit more fat, to where when you're done with dinner, you're like, man, I'm stuffed. Because I would rather you be done then and not doing it throughout the night, because just giving your body, giving your digestive system the rest, um, it's amazing. Maybe you eat 300 or 400 more calories during the dinner period, but that could be saving you 5 to 6 to 1,000 calories later on in the evening if you're just snacking and picking away, and which is probably going to be sweets or chips or processed foods that's not great for you. So yeah, getting those calories in during those meals is super important.
Well, we have a few minutes left, and I want to talk. This is something that I wanted to have a discussion with about our whole messaging around COVID. And I don't want to get
Mm.
into, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, but one of the things that really bothers me is I, I think we missed a really great opportunity to talk about getting healthier, to talk about things we can do to support our immune system. We know there's research out there that obesity is a huge comorbidity factor. Like in Japan, we are at about 12,500 deaths for COVID. And if
Yeah.
you look at, and I mean, we live on top of each other. Um,
Right.
that has the most elderly population in the world. Most people here take public transportation alone. Like most people don't own cars. So we're in
Mhm.
packed buses. Like social distancing in many cases is just not a thing. And so you have to wonder, okay, if it's not just exposure, it has a lot to do with, I mean, they're very active. They're walking to their trains. They're, obviously there's very few obese people here. And I just thought we missed a really good opportunity to start talking to people about how they can take care of themselves and making the connections between, you know, the stuff that we put in our body, how we move our body, and how that actually protects us from a lot of chronic illnesses, from, picking up viruses. It's not that just as soon, like I almost never get the flu. That doesn't mean that I'm not ever exposed to the flu. Like we run into things all the time, and we have a built-in system that actually works pretty darn good if we support it to fight off infections and pathogens. And I found just so frustrating that we could have taken this opportunity to discuss what real health looks like. What are your thoughts on how this has all been happening?
Yeah, wow, you hit it right on. I think, and I have heard a lot of people in the nutrition realm and in the fitness realm talking about this, but yeah, I don't think it gained as much traction as it could have. And again, um, there's it totally makes sense. I mean, people that are into fitness, people that eat well, we know that a lot of those people, you're like, oh man, they don't get sick as much. You don't have as many underlying problems. Just I mean, we know this from the sick care system, especially in North America, that it's just a lot of the people that are part of that system are, they could be overweight, they're not eating healthy, they don't live the lifestyle that they probably should, so they're getting these chronic diseases already. So to throw a another virus on top, I mean, wow, you're just really hitting the nail on the head. So yeah, they should have been talking about how important it is to um, be getting out for those walks, eating better, doing the right things. Unfortunately, they shut down gyms, they shut down
Yeah. They made
so many
people scared to
different.
go outside.
I know, and we needed to be out walking. I mean, I every chance I had, I'm outside, I'm walking, I'm getting fresh air. And just because I'm inside doesn't mean that I should be eating unhealthy. I mean, I could totally still be eating healthy. And why that didn't happen, I don't know. But I feel that just in general, like we can say COVID or not, that I think we still have a long ways to go when it comes to, you know, promoting the fitness and nutrition. And I think it's getting better. I definitely think we're trending in the right direction. And partly because of social media and other things, we have a lot more exposure to those think nutrition programs that are better for us, fitness exercises we can do at home. But yeah, I really wish I would have said, I guess the news or the governments would have had a better approach to, because people will listen to that, right? They listen to the governments. We know this. So had they have given out a little bit more direction on, hey, no, make sure you're outside, make sure you're getting that activity, make sure, you're eating healthy. No, it's not a panacea. No, like you said, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get it or be exposed to it. But the healthier we are in general, the better chance we have to fight these diseases off.
Yeah. Like for as soon as, we had a shutdown here, um, at the end of February 2020 for 2 months. And then basically, we've had mild shutdowns, but things like you still can do whatever. They're not the same as the shutdowns that happened in the US. But it was like I was cooking with more ginger and garlic and fresh herbs, and like what can I do nutritionally that
Mm-hmm.
not only helps boost my overall health and well-being, but also is antimicrobial and antiviral,
Yeah.
and like that's the sort of thinking that I'm like, okay, so we need to introduce more of these things and make sure that we're getting sunshine, because vitamin D production is really important. And we know vitamin D particularly is important with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, like those were the messages. We could have just said, okay, yes, we've got our health authorities and we're looking at treatments and we're looking at vaccines and we're looking at whatever, but here's what you can do. Here's some power, here's some agency, through these actions that you can take, whether it's nutrition or moving your body or whatever, that you can do to help support what you've already got built into your body. And
Yeah.
it was really frustrating to me. Instead, we got people like addicted to their internet and the phone or their phones. And I got to say, like right when it was coming down, I was checking like, oh my God, what are the cases? And I was quite, stuck to my computer, but I was still getting out and walking. And yeah. And then we have people that were like scared to go outside, and some places, yeah, in California, like some of their just arcane rules that they had. You're right. I can understand
Yeah.
maybe the closing of gyms, but
Yeah.
some of the basic, like don't even walk your dog kind of stuff like that is pretty, it was not in alignment with health. And like you said, I guess it's just a outcropping of the disease care system that wouldn't look at things like, yeah, maybe introduce some fresh herbs and garlic and ginger and stuff into your diet to assist you.
Yeah, I think those that were in the know and those that are already living that lifestyle, it was their chance. We got tons of good information. We were able to double down, like you said, all those things. This was another opportunity for me to add more of these herbs and vegetables and get out in that sunshine and walk more and do some other things that I had to try to figure out to do when I, wasn't able to do some of those other things. But those that weren't, I think the governments themselves were just so worried about, just shutting it down any way they could. And I think they missed, an opportunity to say, hey, focus on these things, focus on yourself, keep yourself healthy in these ways. And there's so many experts out there that could have helped out. And, social media influencers, celebrities, anybody that could have just had a voice and say, oh, right, look at them. They're doing this or they're doing this. And we could have got a lot of people on board to say, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot and see if it helps.
I mean, they did that with vaccines. They could have done that with.
Right. So you could do it and you get people on board, but I don't know that whole, the fitness and nutrition and everything, just, I think North America in general too, it suffers when it comes to that. So doing it during a crisis, definitely wasn't going to be on their agenda. But as an individual, I tried my best, and I know people that are in that space, we all tried to give the best information we could, just to, tell people how to take care of themselves and lead by example. Like I said, I was outside all the time. I was working out in my front yard, and people that did walk by were kind of looking like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, hey man, just because I'm at home doesn't mean, I'm going to stop doing my crazy workouts. Here I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll find time.
Watching my neighbor out on his patio. We actually have a gym upstairs in our building too that we were still able to use in a pool, but him and his wife were doing their exercise out on their patio, and I just thought, right on, that's awesome.
Yeah, anytime I walked by and I saw people doing that or heard stories of people like, oh yeah, no, I was doing this or doing that, I'm like, yeah, good for you. There's ways you could do it, and yeah, you have to keep yourself physically, and not to mention just the mental aspect you get, even if you're just working out, you feel better. And
yes,
we all kind of need this in this time to help get through the craziness that's going on.
Well, I like to give my guests an opportunity to share how they can find your book, how they can get in touch with you, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, helpmindsoul.com. Everything is there. You can find the book on Amazon as well as website. I'm at J Simpson HFX on Instagram, as well as Facebook and Health Mind Soul Life. We have both platforms there, and we can all the information when it comes to spiritual wellness, fitness, nutrition. We give out tons of information. We're all about just providing as much as we can. So anybody wants to get a hold of me, they can DM me anytime. I'm always open to talk and love to talk about any aspect. It's just fun helping others achieve their best.
Well, I want to thank you so much. I think we touched on some really important things today. Thanks for coming on the Chaos and Light podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we will be back after this ridiculously short break. Are you enjoying this podcast and want to help this lady out? Well, share it with friends, or even better, leave a review on iTunes. We'd love to hear from you. Now back to the show. All right, well, that's it for today's episode. I'm going to be taking a couple of weeks off while my family moves back to the United States. But the next episode, we will have Scott Shea, and we'll be discussing the fundamentals of religion and atheism and why it's meaningful for us to have some sort of faith and whether we can have a rational faith in God. So I'm really excited for that conversation. Well, take care and seek the mystery.